You wake up after 8 hours of sleep. The room is the same room. The light is the same light. But your mind arrives a few seconds after your body does. A word you know sits just behind your tongue. A name that should appear instantly waits a beat too long. You blame the mattress, the heat, last night's wine, anything except the night itself, because the night looked normal. You closed your eyes. You opened them 8 hours later. Nothing seemed to happen in between. That is the assumption almost everyone carries, that sleep and repair are the same event. They are not. A brain can sleep completely while its repair work quietly fails inside a person who feels, by every outward measure, fine. Every night, your brain runs the most expensive maintenance operation your body performs. A narrow window where it stops processing the world and starts repairing itself. Damaged proteins get collected. Cellular debris gets swept out. By morning, in a healthy brain, you haven't just rested. You've been serviced. Most people think Alzheimer's disease begins with forgetting. It doesn't. That's where it becomes visible. Where it begins is in that maintenance window. And what interrupts it, most nights, isn't anything you'd expect. Sleeping is a behavior. Repair is a biological process. Falling asleep does not guarantee repair, any more than parking a car in a garage guarantees a mechanic open the hood. Repair depends on a specific stage, deep, slow-wave sleep. Here, billions of neurons stop firing in their usual fast. Chaotic patterns and synchronize into slow, powerful electrical waves rolling across the cortex. Consciousness fades, but the brain is not shutting down. It is reorganizing. Astrocytes stabilize the chemical environment repair depends on. The glymphatic system opens wider, letting cerebrospinal fluid carry away the day's metabolic waste. Synapses that fired too often get recalibrated. Proteins get folded correctly, or removed before they become a problem. A single disrupted night rarely matters. The next good night resets the debt. Alzheimer's introduces something else. Not the absence of sleep, but the absence of finished sleep. If you're fascinated by documentaries like this, subscribe to Pathology of Fear. New medical documentaries every week. People affected can spend a completely normal number of hours in bed while repeatedly drifting out of deep, slow-wave sleep without ever fully waking. No memory of the interruption. From the inside, the night feels whole. Picture a city that sends repair crews out after midnight, and every few minutes an alarm sounds. The workers stop, pack up, wait, and start again, only to be interrupted a second time. The crews never disappear. They simply never get enough uninterrupted time to finish the list. What keeps sounding the alarm? Not dying neurons, not damage anyone would notice. It starts with something whose entire job is protection. Microglia are usually introduced as the brain's immune cells. Accurate, but too small a description. Unlike immune cells that travel through blood, microglia live permanently inside brain tissue, constantly surveying for injury, damaged protein, a synapse beginning to fail. Under normal conditions, this is one of the brain's quiet advantages. Inflammation is a short, controlled response that solves a problem and shuts itself off. The trouble starts when the problem never fully goes away. One of the earliest known changes in Alzheimer's is the slow buildup of beta-amyloid protein outside neurons. Microglia recognize it as a persistent abnormality and respond exactly as they were built to, migrating toward it, surrounding it, calling in reinforcements. At first, this may even help. The problem is not that inflammation starts. The problem is that, this time, it does not stop. Picture a smoke detector wired to a fault that produces smoke every hour, all day. The alarm does its job at first, but if it never stops sounding, emergency systems stay switched on permanently. Not because the alarm is broken, but because it's now responding to something that has quietly become permanent. This is chronic neuroinflammation. Unlike the brief inflammation around a cut, it does not resolve in days. It can persist for years. shaping the chemistry that neurons and blood vessels have to operate inside. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't hurt. But it reaches into the one process everything else in this story depends on. Deep, slow-wave sleep depends on the cortex, thalamus, hypothalamus, and brainstem staying synchronized long enough for large populations of neurons to lock into rhythm. Chronic inflammatory signaling interferes with that synchronization subtly, not preventing sleep, but destabilizing it. Deep, slow-wave periods shorten. Tiny arousals occur that never fully wake the sleeper and are forgotten by morning. The person remembers falling asleep and waking up. The architecture in between has quietly changed. This pattern shows up in people at elevated risk for Alzheimer's years before any diagnosable symptom. Critically, it's not about hours. Someone can spend a normal 8 hours in bed while losing a meaningful share of the uninterrupted restorative sleep buried inside them. Duration holds steady. Quality erodes underneath it. At first, none of this shows. The brain has enormous reserve capacity, backup routes built to compensate exactly when a primary one falters. But inside, each incomplete night leaves something unfinished. A protein that stays a little longer, a synapse that carries yesterday's activity into today. None of it is catastrophic alone. It repeats. The hippocampus carries a disproportionate share of that debt. During healthy slow-wave sleep, it replays the day's experiences in tightly timed bursts while the cortex synchronizes. Alongside it, moving information into stable storage, sleep is part of learning, not just the period after it. When deep sleep keeps fracturing, that transfer keeps breaking mid-sequence. The person stays asleep. The transfer stays unfinished. A familiar name takes an extra second. You walk into a room. The reason follows a beat behind you. Moments easy to dismiss. Exactly what lets the instability keep building, underneath a life that still looks normal. Memory isn't the only thing losing ground on these nights. Something else the brain depends on is falling behind at the same time, and it's the reason the debt doesn't stay contained to one system for long. While memory consolidation falls behind, a second system loses ground with it. The brain burns close to a fifth of the body's energy at rest, and that intensity produces waste that has to leave before it accumulates. The glymphatic system handles this. Cerebrospinal fluid moving through brain tissue, carrying away dissolved waste, running hardest during deep slow-wave sleep, when it also clears the soluble beta-amyloid a healthy brain produces every day as a normal byproduct of activity. Production isn't the problem. Clearance is. When chronic inflammation keeps fragmenting deep sleep, this washing cycle runs on borrowed time. Some waste clears. Not all of it. And here the two failing systems start feeding each other. Reduced deep sleep impairs amyloid clearance. Accumulating amyloid keeps microglia activated. Persistent activation keeps disrupting deep sleep further. The cycle closes on itself. Impaired repair, creating exactly the conditions that impair tomorrow's repair. This unfolds over years, even decades, while the person keeps working, raising a family, making plans, completely unaware anything is shifting underneath. There is no alarm for any of it. No sensation that repair stopped early, that immune cells never stood down, that slow waves fragmented before finishing. It runs beneath conscious access, which is exactly what lets it run for years before anyone has a reason to look. By the time it is noticed, it is no longer confined to two systems quietly feeding each other. It has spread. Memory failure is simply the version of this a family can finally see. Underneath it, the instability is now network-wide. The thalamus, which helps generate the synchronized slow oscillations deep sleep depends on, loses precision under chronic inflammatory pressure. Instead of broad, unbroken waves sweeping the cortex, the pattern fragments, shortening the exact windows where repair does its heaviest work. Protein quality control slips. Synaptic recalibration finishes only partway. Mitochondria feel it hardest. They supply the energy every signal depends on. Now they start each day already behind. Less energy produced, more of the damaging byproducts left over from producing it. The structures they're supposed to power are the same structures that damage builds up in. None of this looks dramatic in isolation. The disease reads as deceptively slow because it isn't one catastrophic event. It's a small, compounding imbalance between constant daily wear and progressively incomplete nightly repair. A tiny deficit, repeated every night for years, eventually produces a backlog no single night can catch up on, which means the visible symptoms, the missed name, the forgotten errand, are late indicators of something that has been running in the background for years. Two people can each sleep a clean 8 hours and walk away with very different biological outcomes. One brain completing its maintenance list, the other pausing before the essential items were checked off. From the outside, both mornings look identical. A sleeping brain is not automatically a repaired brain. Night after night, the same program starts, the same cells respond, the same tools are there, and the work keeps getting interrupted before it's finished, until the interruption itself becomes part of what the disease is. Somewhere in a bedroom tonight, a brain will begin that maintenance program the way it has every night for decades. Whether the list gets finished or closed early again will leave no sensation behind either way. Morning will look the same. It always does, until eventually, for reasons that took years to build, it doesn't.
Pathology of Fear is a medical documentary series presenting clinically documented neurologic and pathological mechanisms for educational analysis.